Hi, everybody. I am so excited to be sharing this information with you today. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. This is information that I am super excited about because really the research on brain health is becoming more and more definitive, and there is so much help for things like ADD, autism, depression, anxiety, the diseases of the brain, basically. And then Alzheimer's research is getting very clear on some causation on Alzheimer's and dementia. So it's very exciting that we have a lot we can do in terms of brain health today. So what is brain health? That is good memory, stable mood, plenty of energy, good sleep patterns, great problem-solving skills. You can think under pressure, you have executive reasoning, and more. Symptoms of a struggle, and some of these surprised me: poor memory, brain fog, irritability, anxiety, depression, attention issues, cravings, feelings of overwhelm, low energy, sleep disturbances, stressed easily, learning disabilities, poor impulse control, and more. And I really want to share my story with you and why I'm so passionate about brain health. This is a picture of me in my 20s. I was struggling from some poor brain health for sure. I actually had, I was on 2 medications for migraines. I felt tired. I had crazy food cravings. And I really feel better now at 40 than I did in my 20s. And so this is, it's the opposite of how it should be, right? And so I'm really excited to share some information with you. And I'm also really excited to share my son's story in a little bit. But first I want to start talking about kind of the low fat craze and the ripple effect. Actually starting in the 50s, fat was kind of designated as this bad thing for you. And a lot of like healthy foods came out that were labeled low fat, everything. Well, unfortunately, to make them taste good, the sugar content was, skyrocketed in our foods. And what I find interesting about this is that sugar really triggers the same areas of the brain that cocaine does, and it's just as addictive. It damages the brain structure, function, and synaptic connections between brain cells, and this leads to Alzheimer's and dementia. And the picture for our kids isn't very good either. It alters the behavior in our kids, causing blood sugar imbalance, which in turn causes stress hormones, inability to focus, and increased irritability, and more. And it's, like I said, it's just as addictive as a drug. And this was a really profound picture for me, kind of looking at, sugar on the brain versus a drug on the brain. So definitely something to be aware of as we're making food choices. Was another thing that was interesting for me to find out is that, and I usually have people guess kind of what decade did these first packaged cereals come onto the market. And don't be fooled, this is 80s packaging. But these were first introduced in the 1950s, and that was at a time when supermarkets were first becoming a thing. Before that, it was, the butcher, the baker, the backyard garden, or the farmer's market. There wasn't these large supermarkets that you could go and get your food in all one place, and there wasn't a lot of packaged foods. And what I find really profound about this, and I don't cite a lot of animal studies, but I cite this one all the time because I think it's really interesting, is that they did a study on cats and they fed them packaged foods. And after the 3rd generation, they could no longer reproduce, not to mention disease rates being an issue. But I find that fascinating because really, if you think about these being introduced in the 50s, my mom was born in 1948. So she's the first generation to have it her whole life. And really it didn't catch on until later in her life anyway. So I'm probably the first generation that really has had it my whole life, and has, that America, us as a society eats a lot of packaged foods basically from my generation on. So I would say at best, again, we're halfway into my son's generation. I think that, we could say 2 generations at best, and look at our infertility rates, look at our disease rates. It's crazy. So there is a lot of, things to know about packaged foods. And if you are interested in that, I teach a class on packaged foods as well and how to read your labels. But, for this class, we really just kind of want to illustrate we are what we eat. And I'd like to kind of, bring people's awareness to how much sugar we can tend to ingest not knowing. And usually I have people guess on this one as well, like how many packets of sugar in this small orange soda bottle. And I get all kinds of guesses typically. But the shocking reality to me is that it's 22 packets of sugar, and each packet of sugar is 4 grams. So It's a huge amount of sugar in a small package. And we don't taste it being that sweet. We would never stir in 22 packets of sugar into our iced tea, which is about the same volume as this orange soda. But it doesn't taste that sweet because it's carbonated, it's artificially flavored. And so our body doesn't really think, you don't really think of it being that much sugar. And so, what is the issue with sugar? Well, there's this interesting cycle that we go through. You eat it, you like it, it's addictive. Your blood sugar spikes, dopamine is released into the brain, which is where that addiction comes into play. Mass insulin is secreted, the blood sugar level drops, blood sugar level falls rapidly, and so high insulin levels cause immediate fat storage. Body craves a lost sugar high, and then so we have to go, your low blood sugar levels cause increased appetite and cravings, thus the cycle is repeated. So it's this kind of crazy vicious cycle. And the other thing that I think is important to know is that our consumption of sugar has drastically changed over the years. And actually, about the turn of the century, the average number of pounds a person consumed in their life in a year was about 4 to 5 pounds a year. And now today, it's anywhere between 130 to 200 pounds per person. That's an average. So some people are eating way more than 200 pounds per year of sugar. That's a huge drastic change. And so you can see just it's up and up and up. And that's 3,500 pounds in someone's entire lifetime. That has a drastic effect on the body and the brain for sure. So, again, we're talking about kiddos as well. Letting our kiddos munch on sugar cubes would actually be better than soda. High fructose corn syrup has a different chemical structure, and it makes them very hungry, tired, and causes liver damage. And then not to mention excitotoxins. So excitotoxins are artificial colors, flavors, things like MSG and artificial sweeteners. And they go to a certain area of the brain and overexcite it. It again, in and of itself is addictive, and kids are 5 times more susceptible to these. So definitely something to avoid if possible. I'm all about simple switches. So if we are going to let our kids have a soda, we usually choose more natural sodas. But if we're out and about and that's what's happening, and we're at a birthday party and we're trying not to be the crazy food Nazis, we'll choose something like Sierra Mist that has, real sugar and doesn't have the artificial colors. Sometimes we'll just, be able to say no. But again, it's not about being perfect with this, you guys. And I really want to give you some simple switches. So if anyone has some things that your kids really crave, I have pretty much found a simple switch for most anything. And I have a list for you. So if you would like that, please message me or get in contact with the person that invited you and I can get you that list. Okay. So I want to kind of point out the real issue with sugar is insulin resistance. If our body is eating that much sugar, after a while, our body just cannot deal with it anymore. And insulin resistance has a huge effect on the brain. It also has a huge effect on the whole body. In fact, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is caused by too much sugar, and just over time, the insulin, we're not able to process it. And so our liver has to process it. And so they see people that aren't alcoholics dying of cirrhosis of the liver because of too much sugar. So definitely something to be paying attention to. Insulin resistance also equals low cognition, increased anxiety and depression, neurotransmitter interruption, and more. Chronically high blood sugar equals inflammation in the brain, and teenagers are very susceptible to this. Where our brains go through different stages, and so it's more sensitive at certain stages, and definitely something to be aware of. And it's really important to shape our kids' tastes early. Okay, and then the other thing to be aware of as well is that, what happens in the body, basically we end up getting used to these things. So our body, again, gets used to the sugar, it gets insulin resistant, we no longer can process it as well, and so we have that domino effect. We have this dopamine release, and that feels good for a little while, but eventually our body gets resistant to dopamine as well. And then there's this overlapping situation with serotonin. When we have low dopamine levels, they're interconnected. So it's just kind of like this domino effect, and you can see some of the issues around low serotonin levels and low dopamine levels. In fact, some of them I was really surprised by. So, low dopamine levels can lead to lack of motivation, fatigue, addictive behavior, mood swings, memory loss, and more. And then low serotonin levels, frequent worry, seasonal SADS, seasonal affective disorder, moodiness, lack of confidence, like the list goes on. And they're interesting cravings, all of these things are low serotonin issues. And then what's interesting also, so those are effects of on the brain. But there's also all of these different effects, like we said, with the liver. But there's this cycle that goes on in the body when you eat sugar. And again, like the domino effect, it not only paralyzes the immune system, affects the liver, affects the GI, affects the brain. And I have this slide here just to kind of talk about, again, simple switches. So, we call the fall and winter the cold and flu season. I really want to relabel that to the sugar holiday season. So we know that sugar can actually paralyze the immune system for up to 6 hours after consuming it. And if you think about, we start with, Halloween and end at Easter with all of these sugar holidays. And it's one of the, so basically we're paralyzing our immune system over and over and over during the cold and flu season, making that worse. So I love, again, simple switches. I will allow my kids to eat some holiday, some Halloween candy, for instance. We avoid things with colors and hydrogenated oil. And then at the end of the night, what they haven't eaten, they put outside, and we have the great pumpkin. Some people call it the switch witch. And that the great pumpkin leaves a present instead of and takes the candy away. So just kind of an idea on how to deal with some of those things. And there's other ideas that we have in our group with other holidays. If you want to be a part of we have a great Facebook group that shares recipes and ideas. Get with the person that invited you to add you to that, because we've got a lot of great resources on there. Okay, so I don't like being bad news, Betty, so I like to share good news. Not all sweeteners are created equal. So, processed sugar is one thing, high fructose corn syrup is one thing, but there are ways to have sweets that aren't as unhealthy as the processed ones. So I love, natural sweeteners like maple syrup, honey, molasses, stevia leaf, coconut sugar. Also, we want to kind of look at carbohydrates and blood sugar. So if we are having a sweet, if we're adding things like fiber, fat, and protein to it, then the blood sugar level is really slower into the body, and it's more of what they call a complex carb. It has a lower glycemic index, and so we're not having that same issue. So we'll make things that are like high fiber. We do raw cacao cupcakes that have high fiber protein, and they're sweetened with honey. And so it's not the same as if you were having a, chocolate cake. So there, again, a lot of simple switches. There's some power that you have based on your food choices. And you really want to stay within this low glycemic range, this blood glucose level. You have, with the spiked high blood glucose level, you have the fall and the crash. It actually dips way down. And this comes with a whole host of issues. But if you can regulate that by eating low glycemic foods, and again, like if we're doing a sweet, high fiber, some healthy fats and protein in that sweet, will lower that glycemic index. So again, very important to just know, choose healthy foods that can also be a sweet. I usually say, like, for my kids, if they're craving a candy, fruit is nature's candy. What kind of fruit can I get you? And if they have that, then, and especially like if they get things from school, they'll bring home treats they get from school. And I will either say, okay, can we get a fun new fruit with this? And we'll switch that out, or I'll make them a healthy cupcake of some sort. Okay. Sugar is not the only thing that affects our brains. So we've learned a lot about added sugar. I hope I haven't beaten a dead horse there, but I also want to make people aware of the other foods that affect the brain. So hydrogenated oil equals plaque in the brain, less cognition, and decreased brain size. Fructose impairs memory and problem solving. Again, high fructose corn syrup, something we want to avoid. Actually, sourcing your seafood is important. Mercury levels can reduce cognition. So you really, we choose to eat wild salmon. It's got low mercury levels and wonderful omegas. Saturated fat can be a problem, again, causing plaque in the brain and impairs learning and memory in as little as 10 minutes after eating it. So be choosy on your saturated fats. There are some healthier saturated fats like coconut oil, versus, saturated fat from bacon. There's amazing health benefits to coconut oil. And then processed foods. Processed salt actually increases blood pressure, brain fog, and cognitive decline. One of my simple switches for salts, I love, you need to have enough salt to be healthy as well. So it's about choosing your salt wisely. We love Himalayan salt, Celtic salt, unrefined salts with no anti-caking agents. And then fast food. This was interesting for me. People who consume fast food are 40% at higher risk of depression. And then also you need to be choosy on your supplementation, because copper and iron in supplements can block cell communication and lead to nerve cell death. So very much don't want to have an overabundance of copper and iron. Okay. So, nutrition is the building blocks for our kids' brains. So we really want to choose wisely. And I like to also, again, keep it simple. So I'm going to give you some choices here in a little bit. I also want to illustrate, for us as we age, it's, it depends on how our brains age as well. So Alzheimer's disease leads to nerve cell death and tissue loss through the brain. And over time, the brain shrinks dramatically, affecting its functions. This was a shocking picture for me when I first found it. So definitely want to, protect our brains aging. But what's really, really good news is that they have found amazing ways to prevent Alzheimer's. So I like to just kind of remind myself, eat your fruits and vegetables, go nuts, and use it or lose it. That's kind of my mantra when it comes to Alzheimer's. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a little bit. But Alzheimer's, this was really interesting for me. Alzheimer's is actually being relabeled basically type 3 diabetes. It's directly related to blood sugar levels. And if you are diabetic, your risk for Alzheimer's is greatly increased. The number one way to protect the brain is a diet rich in fruits and vegetables. And this is really great news because there is something we can do. However, the striking reality in the US today is that 90% of the food eaten here is processed. So we live in a time where our children are more harmed by poor diet than exposure to alcohol and tobacco combined. And Dr. David Katz at Yale said this is the first generation of kids to have a shorter life expectancy than their parents. And that is not okay with me. I tease that I'm a mom on a mission. I really want to change that statistic. I feel like that's not okay, and that shouldn't be the statistic, and there's something we can do about it, because experts agree that 75% of diseases are preventable through good nutrition. So that's really exciting. There's something we can do. I love this information. There was an amazing study that 150 doctors collaborated on, and they looked at 4,500 different studies on what keeps us healthy. And the only common denominator was a diet rich in fruits and vegetables. And then I usually have people guess, how many servings of fruits and vegetables should we have a day? Some people say 5, some people say 7. The current recommendation is anywhere between 7 to 13 servings a day. And that's, I think, a minimum. If you are doing that and still having issues, then your body needs even more. I just think we're up against a lot of toxins in the environment, and it's one of our first line of defense is antioxidants against those. And if you are an athlete, it's actually in a workout, an hour in any 24-hour period, it's actually 16 to 18 servings. So our brain is like a garden. We have to water it, till it, rest it, and feed it. So we know we're talking about what feeds the brain. It's basically fruits and vegetables. I'll get into a little bit more on that in a second. But I want to really make people aware of that dehydration is a big issue as well. So it's a known factor in dementia, and proper hydration may help reduce the risk of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Lou Gehrig's disease. So very exciting. Water, you want to be drinking about half your body weight in ounces every day. So at 140 pounds, I need to be drinking 70 ounces of water a day. And so just kind of a good rule of thumb to know. Okay. And then tilling it is like exercise. What's so exciting about exercise is that it grows the hippocampus, which equals more memory and learning. It also grows areas of the cortex, which increases our ability to think. So very exciting. We want to till it, get blood flowing, get kind of unclog the brain, basically. And then downtime is so important. So research on naps, meditation, nature walks, and the habits of exceptional artists and athletes reveals how mental breaks increase productivity, replenish attention, solidify memories, and encourage creativity. So definitely having that downtime and that nature time is so important. And then the feeding it part. So this is a great chart here. having a diet rich in plants is so important. We're really going to protect the brain in so many different aspects, and not only the brain, obviously the body as well, but it's so important. These are foods to eat for a healthy brain. And then I'd like to talk about our gut. It really is our second brain. I do a gut health talk, and it's really exciting. Again, the research on this as of 2012. So this is changing the medical textbooks. This is changing how people practice medicine. The discovery that our microbiome is this complex, just colony of different, beneficial bacterias and all working together in these amazing ways that we have new understanding of. So if you want more information on gut health, I do a gut health class. One of the things that I find fascinating is that our gut actually produces most of our neurotransmitters. So if our guts are off, our brain is off. So there's very much a gut-brain connection. I love to tell my kids that, we want to feed our gut the right thing. We want to feed our brain the right thing. It's all connected. And fruits and vegetables are like superheroes in the body. They're like ninjas for the brain, directly related to, anxiety rates, depression, all of these things. So it's really exciting, again, that we have choices. And I want to point out, a lot of people will bridge the gap with a vitamin. And there's a huge difference between vitamin and whole foods. Phytonutrients are these amazing, there's all of these compounds in whole foods, phytonutrients or phytochemicals, and there's actually 10,000 phytonutrients in an apple. And this is a list of the 400 known phytonutrients in an apple. And it would actually take 26 pages to list everything. So that's a huge amount of compounds. And we've actually only discovered 13 vitamins and then handfuls of minerals and then maybe some herbs. So like even the best whole food supplement would maybe have 50 ingredients at best. So that's a huge difference, 10,000 versus 50. So we really want to be making sure we're eating whole foods. And I want to share my story a little bit more. So when my son was 1, he was showing early signs of autism. He wasn't making eye contact. He was super picky. He had the beige diet. As a baby, he was very colicky, he had eczema. And I was a very scared first-time mom. So he's not making eye contact. He's very picky, and he starts hitting his head against things. So me, being a crazy first-time mom, I Googled the best autism specialist in the nation, and I flew him to see her. She had her naturopathic doctorate, her MD, and her biochemistry degree, so 3 doctorates. And she really started educating me about the relationship between nutrition and how our brains are functioning. And I think she kind of saw that I was a little deer in headlights. I mean, I thought we ate organically. I thought we ate really healthy. We had a lot of, whole foods in our diet, and yet still there was something missing because he was having this result. And what we'll see a lot of times, you guys, with generations is that there will be something off in the gut, and it usually leads to allergies. And then from there, it leads to gut issues, Crohn's, larger gut issues. And then from there, it leads to brain issues. And that typically happens generational. And that was certainly the case in my family. My mom had allergies. I had food allergies and very, just a completely off microbiome. They call it dysbiosis. That's, again, in my gut health talk. And then for my son, it was in his brain. So it's very interesting to see that kind of, again, another cycle, another domino effect. So she actually introduced a product to us called Juice Plus, and I want to tell you a little bit more about that. It was such an incredible change. It was a simple solution we actually opened the capsules into his baby food, and the capsules are 30 different fruits, vegetables, and berries. And it was just an amazing way to get, again, he's on this beige diet, right? It's an amazing way to get concentrated nutrition into his diet every single day. And within a few months, I saw things like he was making more eye contact. He reached for tomatoes for the first time, which would have totally weirded him out. And it was like a light bulb went back on in him. It was incredible. And then for me, I started taking it too. I don't want to take, I wasn't going to give my baby something I wasn't trying alongside him. And for me, those migraines went away. And I had cystic acne that cleared up. I started shedding the excess weight that I could never seem to lose. I was on this yo-yo diet all the time. And this time I wasn't changing anything other than adding Juice Plus. And it seemed like that was falling away. The anxiety and depression started lifting, and my cravings started going away. Like I just craved salad, like instead of fries, it was a huge, huge blessing. And I'll share a little bit more about my son's story in a second. I love this company for the simplicity. Their mission is to inspire healthy living around the world. And if you are just a purist and you love fruits and vegetables, this is an incredible product. We have the Tower Garden where you can grow your own produce. There's an interesting statistic I carry around in my head that a green bean loses all of its vitamin C within 24 hours of picking. So when you think about the fact that our produce is typically picked before it's ripe, it's trucked and then stored on a supermarket shelf and then gets to us, maybe it's 2 weeks old at best. And there's a huge nutrient loss in that. So to be able to grow something, on our back patio, in our living room, as you can see down here, is so incredible. And we will go off and break off, kale, and we have broccoli, we have all kinds of things, and put it in our morning smoothie. And we know we're getting amazing nutrition because it's right there and then. This is my son now. He loves the Tower Garden. He's photobombing his purple cauliflower. Actually, I say this is now. This was a couple of years ago, and this was about 4 years ago. But he's 13 now, and he is bright. He is so smart and creative. I almost want to say that he's not on the spectrum at all. At one point, they diagnosed him with sensory processing issues. But, you wouldn't know that he's on the spectrum. And I can't help but feel like his health picture would be very different if I hadn't learned about this product, and also just about how important food is and how important it is to get as many fruits and vegetables as possible. So I love Juice Plus. If you're not into farming, just kidding, we have a really simple solution for you. And this is the capsules. This is 30 different whole foods. It has a food label. It's like having a bag of spinach has a nutrition facts label, not a supplement label. It has all of those tens of thousands of phytonutrients. It's non-GMO, dairy-free, gluten-free. It's also NSF certified. So this is a third-party company that comes in and randomly pulls batches of Juice Plus to be sure that it's free of harmful additives. It's free of pesticides, molds, bacteria, pharmaceuticals, the list goes on. And actually, what was interesting to me to find out is that only 1% of supplements really pass NSF. So it's a very stringent protocol. And then there's, on top of that, Juice Plus is the most researched nutritional product in the world today. It's actually got, I think it's 37 studies now, and amazing results with Juice Plus. Things like better cardiovascular wellness. It actually has been shown to reduce the effects of a high-fat meal. Supports a healthy immune system. There's a typo there. I'm sorry, inflammatory response. So actually, not only does it bring down systemic inflammation, it actually decreases inflammation in soft tissues, increases wound healing, all of these things, and it's pretty exciting. Also supports quality of life in ovarian cancer survivors, reduce insulin resistance in overweight boys. This was an incredible study done at Nemours. They've actually looked at it in smokers. It negated the oxidative stress due to smoking. I don't like to share that one very often because I want people to quit smoking. But again, it's not about being perfect. It's about giving your body enough to do repair with. It also supports healthy skin and gums, supports the immune system. This is there's several immune system studies. One of them is super profound because it's been shown to clinically balance the immune system within 80 days. Bringing into control the B cells that are the ones that go out and attack the body that are related in autoimmune disorders, but bringing up the T cells and the natural killer cells. Again, autoimmune issues are on the rise. So anytime we can balance the immune system, that is powerful. Protects DNA, reduces oxidative stress. This is near and dear to my heart because kids on the spectrum have an overwhelmingly large amount of oxidative stress. Something about their bodies cannot process oxidative toxins and things like that the way normal people can. And Juice Plus has been shown in several oxidative stress studies, but it's, anywhere, the oxidative stress reduction, anywhere from 75% to 85% reduction. And so that is huge. And then multiple studies showing that it's absorbed by the body, not only gets into the bloodstream, but into the cells. So very, very exciting. And Juice Plus, the company, is incredible. They have a huge heart for kids. They have a children's health study. It's the largest longitudinal study of its kind. It actually has about 1 million participants at this point. And kids between the ages of 4 and 18 can get their Juice Plus for free, and even full-time undergraduate students. And they can get that for about up to 4 years, which is really exciting with a sponsoring adult. So an adult can order Juice Plus, and they can sponsor a child of their choosing to get Juice Plus for free. and great results. They're eating less fast food. They're eating more fruits and vegetables. They're drinking more water. They're taking less prescription drugs, and the list goes on. I love our complete shakes. They are low glycemic. Again, that we were talking about that glycemic index. They have the same glycemic index as broccoli. They're vegan and non-GMO, gluten-free, dairy-free, plant-based protein, and it's actually a powerful prebiotic, it goes along with probiotics. They have oligosaccharides that feed that beneficial bacteria. It's very, very, it's an amazing treat. It's delicious. So it's a great way to have a treat, but not really affect our blood sugar in there for our brain and our bodies in a negative way. And again, we're talking about that bell curve. The complete keeps us in that zone of willpower. It's long, slow releasing carbohydrates that keep us full and satiated, and in that zone of willpower more than if we have a high spike in the low. Okay, what does it cost? So I love Juice Plus is affordable. It is $2.50 for the 30 different fruits, veggies, and berries every single day. I bought an organic peach in season, and it was $2.50, and it was right where it was grown. So that's a huge, huge cost savings. The shakes are actually only $2 a serving, so that's really affordable as well. And I just want to thank you for your time. If you guys have any questions, whoever invited you can get in touch with me. Please feel free to reach out with questions. I love, being able to help people as much as possible. And just really excited for you guys to be part of our community. Join our Facebook group where you can get some great resources. And I hope you have an amazing day.